Happy New Year and welcome to another tutorial in which we are going to solve this Cambridge IT paper 2 practical paper for October-November 2022. And our focus is going to be on the video editing question. So the question paper begins by giving us the source files that we are supposed to have, and in our case we are going to need just N22TO, and then it gives us a preamble of the video editing question. It says you work for Tawara High School, which has chosen to support the Tawara Elephant Orphanage for its annual charity event. You create a short video to show to the students. The original video clip was recorded by GBR Video and the audio was recorded by KMB Audio. Task 1 says open the file N22 in your video editing software. Make sure the aspect ratio is 16:9. Remove the end of the clip so that only the first 22 seconds remain. Remove all sound from the clip. Use the pan and zoom to remove the crowd on the left of the frames from the start of the video clip. Keep the elephant in the frames at all times. Save your video clip in MP4 format with a resolution of 1280 by 720 and the file name TO2_ followed by your center number and candidate number. So to begin with, I already have my Premiere Pro opened and I opened a new project. So first thing you do is give your project a name. In my case, I'm going to give it TO. This is not the name of the final file, but it's just for saving purposes. Then for the location, you are supposed to select probably your examination folder that is located on your desktop. Next, you click OK. So the first thing we do is we need to import our media into our project bin. It is down here. You right click and select import. Then locate your folder in which your source files are. I already have mine located here. So I select my file. That's N22 and I select open. Now we drag and drop it to our timeline, or in this case, we right click and select new sequence from clip. So it creates a new sequence for you based on the clip that was given to you. Now let's make sure our clip resolution or the aspect ratio is actually 16:9. So to do that, we go to sequence at the top here and select sequence settings and look under video, look at frame size. The horizontal and vertical must give you this aspect ratio, which is 16:9. So it means we don't need to make any changes to what we've been provided with. So you click OK. So the next thing we are going to do, as the question requires, is to remove the end of the clip so that only the first 22 seconds remain. So to do that, we can go into our timer here, which also indicates the playhead position. And in the seconds, where the seconds is provided, we enter 22. Take note, this is microseconds. This is seconds, the next is for minutes, and the last one here is for hours. So when you type in the 22, you press enter, and your playhead moves to the 22 second mark. Next, we pick our razor tool, which looks like a blade, this one, and make a cut alongside where the playhead is positioned. Now we don't need the rest of the clip We just need the first 22 seconds, so we select the last two and press delete, so that is gone. We also need to remove the audio from this clip, so we select both clips and on the timeline, one representing the video, one representing the audio, and right click and select unlink. In doing that, now we have a separate audio and video clip. So we delete the audio clip and all we have is the video clip remaining. The question also requires us to zoom and pan the clip, the video clip, so that the audience or the spectators on the left at the beginning of the video, you can see them on the left here, are no more there. So to do that, as the clip is still selected, we go to our effect control panel here at the top left, and just under video we have motion and we have position and scale. So we are going to use these two properties here and zooming and panning so that they get out of our frame. So first thing is I'm going to tweak the X and the Y position a bit. In this case, just the X position, which is the 960, to my left. So as I click and drag to my left, you see they get out of the screen. And at the same time, I'm going to come down to the scale up here and increase the size. So the scale is responsible for the zooming and the positioning is responsible for the panning. So in that case, they're out of the screen, but we need to make sure or ensure that our elephant stays in the screen throughout the video. So we scrub our playhead throughout the video, just play it through to ensure that our elephant doesn't disappear in any part of the video. So when you come here a little bit, you see that it's as if it's getting out of edge. So we can still make some adjustments to our position as though we are trying to bring it back, something like this. And then we bring this back to the beginning and ensure that our people are still not in the screen. So this time around, when I play my playhead through, our elephant remains in the entire frame. Let's go back to the question and see how we are required to save our first file. So we are required to save our video clip in an MP4 format with a resolution of 1280 by 720, and the file name should be TO2 underscore followed by your center number and underscore your candidate number. So we are back in Premiere Pro, and to save our file, we normally do what is called an export. So we need to export our file to have it saved in the format that is required. And to do that, you can either press Ctrl and M, but make sure your timeline has this blue line around it whilst you are pressing Ctrl and M. And in the same time, the blue line has to be around it when you select File and Export. Else, when you do that, when you don't select it, or if it is not selected, your export to media might not work. So in this case, I'm going to File and I'll select Export, and then under Export I select Media. And now our export settings window opens up where we can make further adjustments to the file before we hit the save button. First and foremost, we are supposed to select, or we are supposed to save it in an MP4 format. So from the top here, we can drop down and select MP4. In Premiere Pro, MP4 is also known as H.264. So take note of that in case you are using Premiere Pro to solve this question. Next, we are supposed to use a specific name, which is TO2. So just here where it is written output name, you click on the blue name here and select your folder in which you want to save your file and give it a name as required. In my case, I'm just going to write some random numbers and I select save. Okay, so we are not done saving the file yet. We need to actually render it as a video file. So we come down further and we see video here. And under video, we have basic video settings. The first thing you see is the width and the height, but it has been grayed out. So if it's been grayed out, it is assuming that you want to go with the first size or the actual default size that you have placed in the sequence. But in this case, we are changing the size to 1280 by 720. So we click on this checkbox here to make our width and height editable. So I'm going to change this to 1280, press the tab key, and then instantly the 720 follows suit because we are still trying to maintain the 16 by 9 resolution. It automatically picks the height for you. And also because this anchor or this anchor has been locked down. So with that done, we can now go further down our window and look for the export button. There it is here. This is the export button. I just click on it once whilst we wait for the file to export. Next, we are supposed to take a picture frame or a still frame of the first frame of our clip and the last frame of our clip. And how to do it in Premiere Pro is to pull your playhead to the beginning. Let's deal with the first frame. So this is the first frame. There is an icon here that looks like a camera. What it does, it exports the first frame, or it exports the frame as required. So I'm going to click on the camera once, and then what it provides me is with this window where I can give it the name. In this case, we are supposed to name this TO1, that's the first one. And we can change the formats too, but in this case, we are sticking to JPEG. And we need to change the path as well. In this case, I'm choosing my exams folder. I don't want to change that, but if you want to change it, click on browse here and try and locate your exams folder as required. Next, make sure import to project is also selected so that when it does the exporting, it will import one copy into our project. In so doing, we don't need to go back and import the file back into our project again. So I'm going to click OK. And then when you look down here, we already have our first frame JPEG imported into our project. Next, we're going to move to the last frame. This is the last frame. Somewhere here, just before the darkness appears. Yes, so this is the last frame. And I press on the camera once again. And this time the name we are supposed to give it is TO3. Still JPEG format and same folder. And you click OK. Take note that as a copy is placed in the project, you already have a copy in your examination folder, which will be marked. So just click OK, and there you have it. So let's ensure whether really our files entered the folder. So I have the folder opened here. I'm going to click on it once, and here you have it. You have TO1 and TO3. So task 4 requires us to use the files saved in steps 1 to 3 to create a video clip to match this storyboard. All text should be displayed in a consistent sans serif font. Sans serif means fonts that do not have extensions at the end. We are not to use transitions as well. So on time 0 seconds, background image TO1 is displayed, and then the text charity event placed at the title in the top left corner. At 3 seconds, the title text and the background remain, with the subtitle Tawara Elephant Orphanage added below the title. At time 6 seconds, all elements added so far remain, with the text help us to support them added as a new line below the existing text. And at 9 seconds, video file TO2 saved at step 1 starts. Then we add the audio clip N22 voiceover.mp3, which was provided in the source file folder. No text is displayed. And at 31 seconds, background image TO3 is displayed. We have to display appropriate credits to scroll up the screen, including the text edited by and your name, center number, candidate number. Next, we're going to save our video clip in MP4 format once again, with a resolution of 1280 by 720 and the file name TO4 underscore followed by your center number and candidate number. So at time 0, we can begin by bringing in TO1, and I'm going to move our video forward a little bit. There's no need removing it, so I pick TO1, drag and drop it onto the timeline. It's supposed to begin from 0, so I'm going to drag it to the beginning of the timeline and ensure that there's no space at the beginning or between 0 and where TO1 starts. So I can type 0 in our timer and do this, and I see there's some space here, so we need to take care of that. So you can click in between the playhead and the clip and press delete, and there we have our TO1. We need to add some text to this, which reads charity event. So I simply pick the type tool or T and click anywhere or the top left corner as required and type out our text. And click on the selection tool once again, and let's bring our text down a little bit. Something like this is okay. Now we need to contrast the background color and how the text looks. So with the text clips still selected, you realize that it has created a clip on top of your TO1. Select it and we go to Effect Controls on our left and scroll through till you see text, which is showing here, and then we can drop down this small arrow by the side, and now we can make changes to our font color and how it looks. First, we were required to make sure it's a sans serif font. Per default, Premiere Pro has chosen Tahoma for me, which is also sans serif. You can select Miria Pro or Arial, they are all sans serif fonts. And I'm going to change the color of the fill here to something that contrasts the background. So something like this is okay. And since it's a title, I would like to choose something that is bold. So down here, I select bold. So I have this title up here. So at the 3-second mark, we are required to add another text which forms a subtitle of our main title, naming or reading Tawara Elephant Orphanage. So once again, I pick my type tool. But before then, let's ensure that our playhead is on a 3-second mark. I'm going into my timer, make sure I have no microseconds, and I have just 3, and I press enter. Now my playhead is on the 3-second mark. And next thing I do is pick my type tool and I start typing beneath the title itself. Tawara Elephant Orphanage. Then I click on my selection tool. But in this case, you realize that it didn't add another clip to what we are supposed to have, meaning what we did was a mistake. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to take away my text. And before you start typing, make sure no clip here is selected, else it will add up to an existing clip which we don't want. So I just click away like this, pick the type tool once again, and then type out our subheading, supposed to read Tawara Elephant Orphanage. Then I click on my selection tool, and then we realize that the clip begins from the 3-second mark, which is correct. Now with my selection tool, I drag it down under the title as required and go to Effect Controls, look for where the text is. Here it is. And then we make some changes. It's not going to be bold. I'm going to select regular, and I'm going to reduce the size so that it just fits in there. So I do something like this, and with my selection tool, I move it up a little bit. So on the 6-second mark, we are supposed to add another text. But before then, we need to ensure that our background runs through the entire time that is required. So as I play through my playhead, we realize that the background, that is TO1 and the charity event text, all disappear. So to extend that, I select both in the timeline like this, just click and drag, and when you see this red arrow handle, drag it till it snaps to the end of the text that we just added, the Tawara Elephant Orphanage. Now we're going to add another text on the 6-second mark, and that is going to run throughout to the 9th second. So what I'm going to do is I'll go first into my timer here and ensure that I am on the 9-second mark. Enter. So this is the 9-second mark showing on the timeline. So I'm going to select all the clips I've created, meaning the text and the JPEG, and drag them, select and drag them to the 9-second mark. Now we go back to the 6-second mark, which requires us to add another text. So in the timer, I enter 6. So this is the 6-second mark, and I ensure that no clip here is selected. Just click away anywhere. Pick the type tool, and beneath Tawara Elephant Orphanage, we type help us support them. Now click on the selection tool and we place it just beneath the second line of text. So we have 3 lines of text. Let's ensure that they are aligned. And we need to drag or ensure that it also ends on the 9-second mark. So here in the timeline, we make sure it's selected, and with the red handle, we drag it back till it snaps in place on the 9-second mark with the rest of the clips. Yeah, 9 seconds. So next we need to add our video clip and a voiceover from the 9th second onward. In terms of the video clip, we already have it in the timeline, so there's no need to go bring it back again. So all we need to do is just drag it to come and meet where the background image TO1 ends. And for the voiceover, we can right click and import it from the source folder and drag it to also begin from the 9th second. We can zoom in on our timeline to ensure that the audio clip is actually starting from the 9th second. So okay, so there we have it. And in this part of the video, no text is supposed to appear, and only the audio is supposed to play as you scrub it through the timeline. So lastly, before we export our video file, we are required to add TO3 to our timeline and add some credits that will scroll upwards the video. So on the 31-second mark, we are going to add TO3 as a background and add our scroll credits. So I'm going back into my timer and locate 31 seconds. Enter. So that is where the playhead is. at the moment. Then I go into my project pane and drag TO3 onto the timeline till it snaps just beside the last frame of the video. You realize that TO3 resolution has changed or is different. So we select the clip, go into its effect controls, and for the scale, we click and drag it up just a little bit so that it fits. Next, we need to add the credits that will scroll upwards the screen. And before we go ahead and do that, we need to change our workspace up here from effects to graphics. So we click on graphics once, and the workspace changes. Now we pick our type 2 T, which is now on the left of our program's monitor. And then we start typing what is required in the credits. So you can place the cursor anywhere here. And then we start typing, beginning with edited by, which should be yourself. So your name comes. I'm going to use my name for this. And then you can provide the center number, and I'll provide my candidate number, which is a random number I'm just typing here. Next, I press enter, leave a space because I want to add another item, which is filmed by. You remember in the preamble, some institutions or companies were mentioned. So filmed by, you make sure you mention them, GBR video, leave space, and then I think my audio will go down there, audio by, that will be KMB video audio, sorry. Now realize that as we started typing, our essential graphics panel on the right gives us so many options as to how to edit or make changes to the fonts that we have added. And this is the main reason why we changed the workspace from effects to graphics, just to have this panel. So next, come back to the timeline and ensure that the text clip that has been generated, this one, is aligned with the TO3 background. Now we need the color of the text to contrast the background. So now we can now go into the options here and look for the fill. And I'm going to select something yellowish. Moreover, I'm going to change the font style from regular to bold. And I'm going to add a stroke. You can also add a stroke to it. Change the color here to black. And I'm going to increase the size of the stroke, the width of the stroke, to something that will stand out. I think 29 is too much. Let me just do 10. and we can align it to center. And now let's make sure it's at the center of the screen. You can readjust that by clicking on this icon here on the vertical center and the horizontal center as well. But we need to see the top of the credits, so let's bring it somewhere here like this. Next, you just click away so that nothing on the screen is selected, and we realize that the options under essential graphics change instantly. Now the option we need here is roll, and what it does is it ensures that our credits scrolls from the bottom of your screen to the top. So click on roll once, and if we try to play or try to replay our video, we realize that our credits scroll from the bottom of the screen to the top and the video ends. So lastly, what we need to do is to export our video. So I will go into File, Export, and Export Media. Once again, we are required to save our file in MP4 format. So make sure if you are using Premiere Pro, you select H.264. After which you come and change the output name as required. In this case, we are changing it to TO4 underscore candidate number and center number, which I have randomly typed here. And then we say save. The next thing we are to make sure our resolution hasn't changed, that is 1280 by 720. So we come down to video here under basic settings and ensure that the resolution hasn't changed. Next, we go down to our export button and click export.
This year's charity event is to support the Tawara Elephant Orphanage. These animals are cared for until they are old enough for release back into the wild, but they need your support.